All right, welcome everyone. Good morning. We are going to get started with our Google certification info session. I'm kind of excited because this is the first session I've done over Google Meet where I can actually see my presentation in the Google Meet. So that's really awesome. So I'm just going to go through some information in regards to Google certification. If you have any questions, you guys can either, because it's a pretty small group today, you can either unmute or you can just type them in the chat. Anything that comes up, we can answer those throughout the session. I'll go through like some of the training options that you have, resources that I've put together, and then of course, if you want to schedule anything individually with me, we can always do that for the fall. So we'll go through the 4 different types of trainings first. So what Google certification offers, and then we're going to look specifically at level 1 and level 2 because those are really the most applicable for teachers. We'll also talk a little bit about some of the advanced training options as well. But Google has done a lot of updates in the last few years with their certifications. Not just the level 1 and level 2, but tying them to other products as well. So they've really done a nice job updating all of that stuff. So, as an overview of these certifications, we have the 2, I would call them the teacher certifications, and those are level 1 and level 2 certified educator. Those are going to cover like the slew of Google Workspace products, and those are going to be the most common that a lot of our teachers are using. One thing to note, since you guys are both in the secondary world, it does also cover Google Classroom. So typically, if I'm running a training session on these things, I do let my secondary teachers know that they'll need to know a little bit about Google Classroom, not a lot, but just a little bit of knowledge about Google Classroom, maybe some of the applications of it. That's going to be helpful on some of the exams. Level 2 definitely ramps up the difficulty in terms of the exam. Level 1, I would say if you've been using Google, it's very easy for you to get level 1 certified. And I always recommend to teachers, like if you're looking for something, some kind of professional development or an EDG idea, and Jody, you might be asked about this a little bit as a coach, but like, I'm looking to create my EDG. So it might be tied to me getting certified and then also me applying that certification in the classroom with my students. So that's an option for sure. But definitely level 2 goes into more difficult tasks, and it really asks the teachers to stretch their knowledge a little bit. Now, I just put together a training for the level 2 certification, and with some of the things that our teachers were asked to do this last year, level 2 isn't as far off as it used to be. A lot of our teachers are doing a lot of the things that they talk about in the level 2 training, so that's nice. Things like creating your own videos and putting them on a YouTube channel. A lot of our teachers did that this year with Screencastify, or even creating Google Slides that are collaborative, things like that. So level 2, if you've already gotten level 1, level 2 might be a good next step for you. Beyond that, the 2, I wouldn't call it really a hierarchy. So it's not like step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Certified trainer and certified innovator are kind of on their own islands. So certified trainer is good for those folks that want to do more leading professional development. So like I am a certified trainer. Some things that this gives me is it allows me to have access to resources that would help me train people on level 1 and level 2. It gives me a little network of other Google certified trainers that, again, I can get more resources from. I go to conferences and present for Google as a certified trainer. So it's just a nice little benefit. So if you're looking into getting into a training position, or you want to advance into, instructional technology, a coaching position, certified trainer is a good program to get started with. I will go into more detail later, but it does require you to log so many hours and participate in a community and things like that. Certified innovator, I'm not as familiar with it. I'm familiar enough to know that I do not want to go into it, but it is definitely something it's actually a really great tool for teachers. So Tara Klein, who was here a few years ago, she became a certified innovator. And basically what you do is you're going to apply for the program, and and you're asking Google to come alongside you in a project that you're very passionate about. So a familiar project to some of us might be Breakout EDU. So Breakout EDU is like digital breakout games or a physical box that students can use in the classroom, but that was actually a Google Certified Innovator project. So sometimes Google innovators are working on websites that might provide resources to teachers. They might be working on a program for professional development. They might be working on like a product like Breakout EDU. They could be writing a book even. So they're working on some project. They want Google to help with that project. So it's not even necessarily technology based, but they're using those resources that Google has. We've heard of 20% time from Google. So it's these passion projects. And then Google, again, will come alongside you and just sort of help out, and they'll give you a mentor and connect you with people outside of your little circle. So it's a nice tool if you have somebody or you are looking into creating a passion project and really going forward with that. Some of the certified innovator boot camps are going to be virtual. Of course, they switched to more virtual when COVID happened, but prior to that, you actually went to a location. So I think Tara went to London for her workshop. They have them in Australia, in New York, in Colorado. Like they go everywhere for these Google Certified Innovator weeks or a few days at least. So it is kind of a nice little getaway and something for you to help focus on that project that you're really passionate about. So let's look at the level 1 and level 2, because that's really the easiest to grab a hold of very quickly as a teacher, and things that you can do like immediately, right? I've been using Google in the classroom. I want to go get that certification and have it. So level 1 certification is going to ask you to take a fundamentals course, and we'll talk about that and what the details are for that. And then it'll also have you take an exam. And again, we'll talk about the details for that. So I'm going to open up the fundamentals course so you can see what that looks like. I'll actually share this presentation with you guys as well in the chat. Just give me a minute so that you have the links to all of these things. And then we're going to look at that fundamentals course. So I put the link to the presentation in the chat, and on that slide, it links to this fundamentals training. So there are 2 trainings that you can go through, the fundamentals and then the advanced. That would be for level 1 and level 2. And as I scroll down here, notice in the top right-hand corner, it did sign me in automatically. So in Chrome, it will recognize that it's you. It'll sign you in because you want to get credit for doing those trainings. Now, up here at the top, it's going to give us like a little overview of the training. It says here, I know it's very small, but it says 15 hours. It does not take 15 hours to go through some of this stuff. I'm going to give you some shortcuts because to me, in my opinion, having done this training several times and actually given this training a few times, a lot of these things you already know as a teacher. You're in the classroom every day. If I were maybe a first-year teacher, or I'm coming back into the classroom, it might be a good idea for me to go through all of these items because it's going to introduce me to some things that have come up in recent years, right? We have more technology available to us. We have more resources. So it might reintroduce me to some of those concepts. But if I'm in the classroom all the time, I probably am familiar with digital tools that are available in my classroom, or even like creating videos, things like that. But I'm going to go through each unit. I can go through each unit individually. And so these just collapse here and they show you what is available to you. One thing to note with these, and I'll talk about the exam in just a little bit, but these questions will relate to the exam. So they will be asked on the exam. The exam is really 2 parts, multiple choice and practical. So for the multiple choice part, you have to think like, how does Google want me to answer, right? And there are unit reviews at the end of each of these units that are going to help prepare you for that exam. So let me just open up this first one here. What I like to do is I like to actually go through the introduction section, and then I like to go to the unit review. And if I don't understand something in the unit review, then I go back to each of the topics and actually look at the content that maybe I missed. So in this introduction section, the reason this part is so important, it's going to give you first a bulleted list here of the things that you're going to learn or what you should know already from this section. It's also going to let you know what products they will cover. That this is probably not a good example. Let me go to a different example because that one didn't even have any products. We'll go to Unit 3. Okay, so I have my what will we learn? And then down here, it tells me what products they're going to cover. So I can glance at these and see, okay, am I familiar with forms? Do I feel pretty good about it? I'm a secondary teacher. I don't know a whole lot about Google Classroom. So I might want to, flag some of these things that I need to know in Google Classroom. Well, what specifically do I need to know? Down at the bottom of this section, this is the best part here. What skills will you need? So it's actually going to list out the skills that you'll need to know for that practical part of the exam. So the second part of the test, it will give you a situation. You're a third grade teacher and you need to create a doc. You need to name it this and share it with this person and give them commenting rights, things like that. So it'll give you a very specific task and it will ask you to complete that task. So these skills down here are going to outline some of the things that you might be asked to do. You might not be asked to do all of those things, but this is some of the information that you might need to know how to do when you're in the exam. As you can see, as I scroll down at the bottom right, oh, it just went away, but it says activity completed. And so I'm getting those blue check marks. That just means that I've actually gone through the introduction. So once I do the introduction, I'm going to look and I'm going to see, do I have enough knowledge of these products? And then I'm going to go to that unit review. So Jody just asked a good question. At TSC, K5 uses Google Classroom, 612 uses Canvas. So all of your clientele, Jody, they're all going to be using Canvas. So let's go to the unit review now for Unit 3. So I'm going to go to Unit 3 in the review, and here's my questions. So it's going to ask me the situation and then have me answer that question. So this one says, since Google and Google Drive are internet-enabled apps, there is no way to access your Google Drive files when your computer does not have access to the internet. And I know that that question is false because we have offline access with Google Drive. So I'm going to answer that false. When I'm done with my quiz, I'm going to submit my answers, and it will actually tell me if my answer was correct or incorrect. My answers are not recorded, so it's not like Google's going to know if I got it incorrect. Obviously, I want to get as many answers correct as possible so that I have a better chance of passing the level 1 test. But this is a great way to sort of prepare yourself for that level 1 exam. Google does like to do a lot of these select all that apply. What I have noticed, and I can't say for sure that this is the case currently, but I know it has been in the past, on the unit reviews, it says select all that apply. But when you get to the actual exam, it will say select 2 answers or select 3 answers. So it will be a little more specific on the exam. I've also seen drag and drop questions where they might ask you to categorize like each of the products in their primary functions. So Google Forms might be surveys and quizzes. Google Docs would be word processing, things like that. So those are the types of questions that you're going to get on the test and just on that multiple choice portion. And then, of course, in that practical part, you're going to see applications to those questions. I would say I just did the practical part of the exam for level 1, and I think there were like maybe 9 scenarios, and I had to do like 2 or 3 different tasks in each scenario. The question always comes up when I do these trainings: what if I don't know how to do something and I'm in the middle of the test? Is it cheating if I open up a tab and I Google how to do something? It's not cheating, actually. Google wants you to use their resources. So, what I would probably have open if this is my first time taking the test and I am maybe a little bit nervous about it, I would have the Google Workspace help documents open. And I can actually go to the fundamentals training. If I know that there were certain tasks within each of these units that I was not super comfortable with, if I come back down here at the bottom where it had all those skills listed, if I click on this learn how, it's going to actually open up the support document that shows me how to do that. So during the test, if I'm having a problem with something, and I wouldn't say that I've ever had a problem with it, but I've maybe forgotten how to do something specifically, or I'm having just a little bit of an issue, I have come into these help documents and gone through, oh yes, these are the steps, or this is how I get there, at least just to get me started. Now, that is going to be within reason because there is a time limit for these exams. So let's go back to our presentation so you guys can see. So again, we go through the course. I go through each of my introductions. I look at those skills that I might need. I go through the quizzes. I'm feeling pretty good about those. I'm ready to take the exam. So when I go to register for the exam, it's going to take me to Criterion, which is the site that Google uses for their certifications. It is $10 to register. You do have a 3-hour time limit. That's where I say you can Google answers within reason, because I don't want you to get to the test and you're Googling every single thing on that practical part of the exam. You will run out of time. I've run a few boot camps in the past, and I've had maybe a handful of teachers that have come back and said, I ran out of time. I should have, worked quicker at the beginning, and I just didn't have enough time to finish the tasks at the end. And then they end up potentially not passing because they ran out of time. Again, it has not happened very often, and they know that it was just because they didn't manage their time well at the beginning. So I would say with the multiple choice, work as quickly as you can so that through those scenario questions and the practical part, you have the most time to really work through each of those items and get through them with confidence. Once you pass that test, and usually you'll get an email like within a few days that says that you passed it, you'll get a little certificate, you'll get this badge that you can add to your email, and it's valid for 3 years. To recertify after those 3 years, all you have to do is take the practical part of the test again. You do not have to take the multiple choice again. The multiple choice is mostly focused on classroom application. So it's going to ask you, like, a teacher has come to you and asked what product they should use for delivering XYZ. And you might give your recommendations, or, this is the product that we're looking at. What functions does it have? So the multiple choice answers really don't change very often. The practical part of the exam does. So as Google updates their features, and we know like this year they've updated so many features, we probably wouldn't even recognize the Google tools from last year, but as they update their features, they want you to make sure that you're staying current with those updates. So you take that practical part of the test, and then they'll send you that recertification so that you have that, and it's valid still. So I'll show you what my certifications look like. So if I sign into my certification, so I actually just redid my level 1 certification last month, and then I'll have to do my level 2 certification in October. So it shows me here that my status is current, and if I click on those, oh, of course it just logged me out, but if I click on those, it'll give me all of that information again. So I can see as I progress that I have maybe an at-risk one. If my certification is at risk, that means I'm within 90 days of needing to recertify, and it will let me take that exam then. So that is our level 1 certification. And really the concepts or the structure is the same then for level 2. We would be going through our advanced course. So let me just show you some of the things that might be in there. Again, we're going a little deeper, but really, if we think about all the things that our teachers have done and have gone through this past year, they've done a lot of these things already. So, organizing class and school materials, designing interactive curricula. So, that would be like interactive slideshows and stuff and things. Harnessing the power of Google research. So, these are some things that you might not be as familiar with. So, some advanced search options in Google, things that are available in Google Scholar. So, again, these are tools that we're going to be using. And then, what skills do we need? Advanced search filters, search operators, Google Translate, Google Scholar, Explore tool. Again, things that you maybe have seen before or you've heard about them before, but you haven't actually done anything with those. So, level 2 definitely takes a little extra time. Now, I am doing a level 2 certification bootcamp next week. So, if you happen to have your level 1 certification and you're interested in level 2, I have some seats still available. So, please email me and let me know that you want to join. It is next Wednesday from 8:30 to 3:30, just over here at Central Office. So, again, I have some seats available if you'd like to take part in that level 2 certification course. During those boot camps that I do, I will go through all of this training with you. So we'll talk through it together so that 15 hours is sort of covered in the day. We go through all of the practical skills that you need to know. And I give you time to take those quizzes so that basically by the end of the day, you're ready to take the exam. The level 2 exam is going to be very similar to the level 1. It is $25 to register for this one. So just keep that in mind. Still a 3-hour time limit, still valid for 3 years. You'll still have that multiple choice portion, and then you'll have the practical portion. Once you pass that exam to recertify, you'll just need to take the practical portion again. So at this point, I want to open it up to any questions that you have about level 1 and level 2, because like I said, those are probably the most common for teachers. So if you have any questions, you can either unmute or go ahead and put them in the chat. If you've got no questions, go ahead and share that in the chat as well so that I know I can move on. Okay, so we talked about this a little bit at the beginning. I just want to dive a little bit deeper into the trainer program. So beyond certified educators, so beyond those level 1 and level 2 certifications, we have certified trainer. Again, this is for those folks that are looking for more of uh, leadership certification for Google. It does require you to train. Now I'm going to try and stretch my brain to remember 15 hours for a year. And those trainings can look however you'd like them to look. Now, if you're in a position where you regularly lead IIB in your building, or your principal would allow you to lead IIB in your building, 15 hours is like nothing. Actually, I think it might be just 15 separate workshops. So like a half-hour IIB would actually count as one of your 15. Within that time, you would let Google know, here's what I trained on. You might add some resources. These are the people that I trained. So not specifically, but like by their domain. So if I train within TSC, I would put that it was tsc.k12.in.us. If I go out and I'm training at a conference, sometimes they'll give me those domains to let me know these are the people that attended your session. So I can tell Google I had teachers from various districts within Indiana, something along those lines. Those can also be virtual. So it's totally fine for you to hold Google Meet and train for those things. For the application process for trainer, when I went through it a few years ago, it hasn't changed too much, just modified just a little bit. But you do need to take a trainer skills test that's similar to level 1 and level 2, but it's more focused on giving advice to teachers and actually training teachers. So, best practice in training on Google tools. And then you need to, when I was doing it, it needed to be a minute and a half video. And so part of that minute and a half, and I believe it's 2 minutes now, part of that would be an introduction of yourself. So, what is your role and why do you want to become a trainer? You do a very quick tutorial. So, I think my tutorial was on like modifying a URL so that it would force a copy for people when they click on it. But it's like a very quick thing. So your training could be how to make a suggestion in Google Docs or how to link a picture in Google Slides. So it's a very quick training. They just want to see what's your style. But as a red flag, if you are interested in this training stuff, one thing to note, a big red flag for Google is if somebody uses content that has a copyright attached to it. So if you are not authorized to use a graphic or a logo or something like that, and you use it in your trainer video, you're automatically eliminated. So those are just some things to note. You'll want to know copyright or use your own original work. It also doesn't need to be super fancy. So you don't need to get crazy with your graphics and stuff like that. They're just looking at, are you compliant and are you training on something that would be useful for teachers? So that is Google Certified Trainer. That's something that once you're in the program, it's just a matter of recertification every few years. So you keep up with your hours and you take it's not even like a test. It's like a Google form where they just ask you a few questions about product updates. But with that, you also get this whole trainer community that's going to be a global community. It's going to connect you with other people that are also training. It makes it really easy then to go do sessions on specific things because people are going to give you slides or you're going to collaborate on things, get questions answered, things like that. And then, of course, we talked a little bit about Google Certified Innovator, where you're really joining again a global community where you're trying to solve problems or advocate for certain things. You're taking a passion and you're using Google's resources to sort of crowdfund that passion. Okay, that is the quick overview of all of the Google certifications. Again, if you've got any questions, go ahead and throw those in the chat or you can unmute. If you have any questions after today, you can always email our team as well.